Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to another Creative Corner series episode. Today we are going to be working on string painting. Before we get started with the workshop, let's go ahead and go over some of the supplies you'll need. Before I go in depth on the supplies that I will be using for the workshop, if you are interested, I do have some supply kits available for curbside. So, as far as the supplies go, you'll receive 6 of these watercolor pieces of paper, as well as a small bag with watercolor paint, as well as a 6-foot long string. And last but not least, you'll also receive this handout that has, of course, today's date, what time we're doing our workshop, how you can view it on Facebook and YouTube, what string painting is, the list of supplies provided, and also some supplemental supplies if necessary. So that will be in your supply kit request. And then as far as our supplies go, I will also be utilizing some watercolor paper. I have a variety of examples that I've done before we got started with this workshop to kind of give you an idea of what we'll be doing today. You will also need some string, cotton preferably, and then some cups. I'm using these small mouthwash looking type cups. So you're more than welcome to use small cups, large cups. The preference is yours. You will also need some liquid watercolor. I do have 6 different colors that we'll be using for the entire rainbow. We have red, purple, green, blue, yellow, and orange. You'll also need some wax paper just to have a nice clean surface and you don't stain the table or your workspace that you're working on. And then I also do have a pitcher that's halfway full with water. With that, let's go ahead and get started with today's workshop. I went ahead and put down a piece of wax paper down to protect my surface. You're more than welcome to put down parchment paper, a trash bag, plastic bag, whatever you have at home. I just have wax paper available, so I put that down. And I went ahead and taped it so that way it stays in place. We are going to do 3 separate methods to do our string painting. And I'll go ahead and go more in that as far as we progress into our workshop. But I have watercolor paper, and I went ahead and folded 2 pieces. So we're gonna go ahead and work on those, and then we're gonna work on the larger size watercolor paper here in a bit. Before we get started on the actual workshop portion, we do need to fill our cups with liquid watercolor. And if you receive our supply kit bags, they're the little dropper bottles, and they are labeled with the first letter of the color that they have. So we're going to start with red and work our way down to purple. But you're going to go ahead and add some of the watercolor to your cups. And again, we are using liquid watercolor in order to do this. Another technique to making string painting is using acrylic paint, which you're more than welcome to use. And with acrylic paint, all you would have to do is get a canvas board, put white acrylic all over your canvas, and do the same thing what we've done with watercolor, but with acrylic, and then you'll just mix it around on the canvas, which is a slightly different technique. But once you add all your watercolor into your cups, you're gonna go ahead and dilute your solution with water. And again, we are working with the 6 colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. The next step is to go ahead and get your string. And if you have more string at home available for use, you may use that. Otherwise, use the 6-foot string that is provided in the supply kits. With your string, it doesn't matter which area you start with, but you're gonna dip your string into your cup. And I'm putting a little bit of slack in between each cup. And you may need to get a toothpick or a popsicle stick to do this. Otherwise, you can naturally let it sit. But it is going to take longer if we let it just sit. So this is just one of the techniques that we're doing today. One of the other things we're going to do is go ahead and get a piece of string. And you can either get a bowl of water, or in my case, I'm using a pitcher. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab my string and put it into the container and let that soak. Now while that soaks, this should be almost ready, but because watercolor has such high pigment content, it takes a little while for it to soak into the string. But because we added water, it's going to help allow the pigment to be absorbed in the string a whole lot faster compared if we just had the paint itself alone. For this next part, you don't necessarily have to do anything with your watercolor paper. All you have to do is make sure that it's nice and dry. And as you can see, it's some of the pigment starting to come out of the cup onto the string. This process does take a while, so I suggest that if you want to do multiple of these, you allow them to soak multiple times. We're going to go ahead and experiment with this one and allow these blank spots to be on the string. The best way to do this is to work with your lightest color going to your darkest color, but I am going to start with red and work my way down to orange. All you have to do is swirl your string onto your paper. Grab the other half, press down so that way it soaks onto the paper. Grab one side of the string and slightly pull your string out. Because this is watercolor paint, it will stain your hand. So if you want, be sure to wear some gloves. But once you open it up, you can see that the colors themselves mix well with one another, and it creates these wonderful kind of swirls around on the watercolor paper. Alright, so this is just one of the various techniques we're going to be doing today. Let me just go ahead and rearrange my cups a little. Alright, so I have yellow, green, orange, red, blue, and purple. And we're going to use the string that we had soaking. And again, we're going to do the same process. Just get the string, dip it into your cup. Because our string was soaking in the water, it's going to be easier to submerge in each cup. And you can see that the pigment goes into the string a whole lot faster compared to having the string dry. But because we also wet the string, the pigment isn't going to be as strong as this first one that we did together. So we'll give it about 30 seconds to 1 minute to allow the paints to get soaked into the string, and then we'll go ahead and put it on our piece of paper and get our secondary paper to place on top. And feel free to move the string around just so that way the pigment gets into the string itself. And as I mentioned, it does stain your skin. As you can see, I got purple and green on me, but that's okay. All right. So we have our clean piece of watercolor paper. Go ahead and get our string. You can use your fingers to manipulate the string yourself. And I'm just going to get another clean piece of watercolor paper. Put it on top. Press it down a tad bit so that way it gets into the paper itself. Grab the string. And go ahead and pull. Let's go ahead and see our end result. As I mentioned, the water dilutes the paint a lot, so it's not that high of a paint contrast. So this one is going to be different from our first one just because the colors are more vibrant, and with the string itself, this one isn't as vibrant, but it still gives us a nice textured look to it as well. We're going to go ahead and let this dry and continue on to our third one. Okay, everyone, before we wrap up our workshop for today, I just wanted to go over some of the methods we used. So first things first, this is our first string painting that we did. We went ahead and dipped the string in all 6 colors that we have. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So we have this nice foldable water string painting. The second one we did is this larger size one, but we did things a little bit different. We actually soaked the string beforehand in water, and then we dipped that water-soaked string into the paint itself. So instead of getting these high contrast colors that we see in this first one, the colors are a bit dulled, but it still creates very interesting effect. So it's really up to you how you want to do this workshop. And this last one, we did using 2 different strings, using 3 different colors for each string. So on one string, I did yellow, orange, and blue. And the secondary string, I did red, green, and purple. So we did 2 different strings, creating 2 different types of string painting on this one here. Thank you for joining me today on our Creative Corners series episode. Today we worked on string painting, and if you are interested, we do have limited supply kits available, and you'll receive some watercolor paper, a little handout with instructions as well as what to do, and then a small bag containing 6 bottles of watercolor paint, and each bottle is labeled with the appropriate color, and a 6-foot long string. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to all of our social media accounts. We have everything from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and much more. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter as well. Again, my name is Josh. I'm your host for Creative Corner. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.